For best friends since way back when. Steel town roots in a story to spin. Pittsburgh streets in our bones. For best part. This month we live it loud. This month we break the cloud.
Hey everyone, this is Serge Blayacourt coming with Four Best Podcast, coming to you with a weekly podcast where four best friends come together and talk to you about the best thing that happened to them in the last month. I'm joined today by Matt Kravitz.
Hey, yo.
Isaac Scott.
Hey, everybody.
And Nate Thumper Kravitz.
And thanks, guys. I'm happy to share with you guys my best from June 2026. And the best thing that happened to me that month was that I got to celebrate my 20-year anniversary, which I'm sure you guys all remember because you were a part of the wedding. Mac and Isaac were best men, and Serge, you helped seat people. And might I say they were seated perfectly. So this was really awesome, guys. 20 years. And so as I talk about this, I talk about marriage and, kind of this ode to my wife that this episode will probably be. I want to just be sensitive to know that marriage isn't for everyone. Some people have had bad experiences with marriage, things like that. And I totally respect that. For me, it has been fantastic. And so I am totally blessed by having an awesome wife who has made my life so much better. And getting to celebrate that after 20 years is really cool. No offense to my parents in this situation, but they didn't make it close to that long. So I didn't get to see that modeled. And for my wife and I get to celebrate that and spend all this time together. And we're still together, guys, even though we're recording this a month later. We are still together. So it's almost 20 years in 1 month. So,
glad you made it that extra month, Nate.
Just wanted to specify. Yeah. That it wasn't now we're over. But, we celebrated by going out to dinner, just doing something special. Earlier this year, we went on a vacation. We said, hey, this kind of counts towards celebrating that because it was a bigger vacation when we went on a cruise. And we got each other gifts. I got her a really nice diamond necklace, and because she actually spent well under what I had budgeted, I also threw in a nice ring, and she got me this cool Tissot Powermatic 80 watch that I've been eyeing for a while because I really wanted something that I could have and use for special occasions. That was something special that could also become an heirloom because I thought 20th anniversary is something really special. So I have this watch now that will probably get passed down to either my son or a grandchild at some point that is pretty nice. Not quite hey, oh wow, I'm flashing a Rolex, but this is a really nice watch. And it was just so pleasing to think about where my life has been because I got married. So some things to just point out, and you guys might relate to this, I am a way better person because of my wife. And I think about how
I agree. Heidi's made me way better too.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear from the beginning, day two, and you were a better person.
Yeah, I know. You were terrible before.
Yeah. Can you imagine how I would react right now to you guys if it weren't for the calmness and love and peace that my wife has covered me with? The terrible things I would say about you.
I actually have a list here of the terrible things. If you want me to start.
Also been approved by Heidi. Those two guys just say you're correct.
But have you thought about this? That you want to be a better person because you want to impress someone? My whole life is like that. That I love my wife. I want her to be impressed with me. So I want to do things well. I want to treat people well. I want her to see me doing that. I want to take care of myself. I mean, I shower every day. And I want to look good for my wife. It really doesn't matter to me what other people think. But can I impress her? Can I do better? Can I work harder? And she's such a blessing for that. And what I always say is the biggest compliment I can give, and it's true, is that I think my wife makes me a better person. And if not for her, these last 20 years, I'd probably just be drunk on the streets.
That's probably not true.
I'd say that's pretty ironic. That would be very ironic.
I was just trying to think of a bad situation. Yeah. So can you relate that to that? Yeah.
Have a seat on the couch, please.
Just the irony that you work at an alcohol rehabilitation center that you would be the guy drunk on the street. I think that's just.
Well, what I need to work for if I didn't have a wife, I would.
Fair. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Nate,
You're either married or you're drunk. So I guess,
No in between.
Yeah.
For other people, I could see an in between, but for me, that's about it.
Honestly, I'm
Two
gonna say,
paths.
as the last one to get married, I was a lot more towards that not doing anything and drinking side for a long time, and being married is way better.
Yeah, or just
It's a
think.
whole lot less lonely.
The truth is, not non-joking, is like I'd be a really selfish person, and I think that the childhood immature me had a lot of selfishness. I still fight selfishness, but there's no place for that. There's no room for that anymore. And I'm so happy because my life is so much better because it isn't based on what do I need to do to just please me. Instead, I get to have family. Let's get 20 years of that. And I can't imagine life without that.
That's awesome. And again, all joking aside, it's like, first off, congratulations on 20 years. An incredible milestone that honestly most people can't really claim today. And so I think it's really remarkable to be able to make it to that milestone. And again, I echo absolutely everything that you say because I can't even imagine life not being married. Rachel and I often talk about it. I've been married longer and had her in my life longer than I've not. So it's just a crazy feeling to even try to think about what it would be like and how terrible we would all be without having our spouses. So that's a great call out. And, just by way of, kind of capitalizing on that 20 years as you kind of reflect back, is there anything that you would point to for maybe anybody listening in or people who are maybe not as far down that road in their marriage of like things you'd say is like a secret sauce where it's like, hey, if you want to make it to 20 years, here's what you would recommend.
Yeah.
Marry a really awesome wife. I've told people to do this before and sometimes they don't. But really, I think that marriage is something that takes work. It's not a passive thing. I think people think about that like, oh, I get into it and it's just going to happen. And it takes some intentionality, which thankfully my wife is very good at and has made sure it happens. And she's someone that tries to encourage other people in their marriages also. It's kind of a mission for her as well. But, it's intentional, and I wouldn't be good at that without her help. But she makes sure that we do things together. She makes sure that we connect. I guess I do that too, but I feel like she really takes the main load of that. I'll share, for listeners, we have a pretty traditional marriage. She's able to stay at home also. So, as far as our gender roles and things like that, she's able to stay at home while I work. And so I try to create opportunities for her to be able to have a lot of freedoms to help out with sort of that traditional housewife, stay-at-home mom kind of role. But she could easily just fall into like the bare minimum, just kind of get things done, focus on the kids, focus on the house and not on the marriage. But she makes sure that we spend time together, that she makes sure that I know that I'm loved and kind of recognizing those different love languages and communicating that to me.
When you say you create opportunities for her to be a good housewife, does that mean you just trash the house every morning on your way out to just make sure she's got plenty to clean up and plenty to do, or what exactly do you mean by that?
That's a great question. What did I mean by that when I opened my mouth and just spoke what I was thinking? I think that I try to create time for her. I try to create opportunity for her to have time to reflect, have time for her to connect with other like-minded women that also are encouragement to her, mentors to her, and that she gets to mentor. Because, of course, the best way to be good at a subject and know a subject well is to also teach it. And I think that helps. But then, sometimes I'm just a mess and she gets to clean up after me. More or less maybe like realistically, but maybe interactionally.
Yeah. I'm kind of going to go off of that a little bit too, off of Isaac's question. And I'll acknowledge, I think one of my favorite things about being friends with you all is seeing how connected and cherished like your marriages are, like how you see that as such an important part and how your kids kind of thrive in those environments. And there's something so beautiful about that because I think we've talked about it before on the podcast. Like we came from very different families, right? Some of our families were divorced. Some of our families, it's hard to pick up on the love in the household. Like I know for myself, like my mom is a very loving person, but my dad is incredibly stoic. And in the traditional Russian sense, like I did not see that. There was not a lot of like, I love yous. Like there just wasn't that. But like I see you all expressing that in your lives. I know I express that in my life very clearly to my kids and my wife, and they are the most important thing to me. And I just have to say it's beautiful. So Nate, the fact that you're 20 years in is just icing on the cake. That's incredible. So my question would be, and I'm sure all of us have gone through some of this, but maybe you haven't because you're stellar. But like, there's quiet moments, I think, in every marriage. And I would think over those 20 years, there were times where maybe like things were more challenging, or maybe just things you had to overcome. Do you recall, if you could go back to any of those, like, what is it that, for some people, they might get stuck in that and the path doesn't go so great. But then for others, you're able to kind of overcome that and move forward. Is there any kind of suggestions or tips again that you would offer for people who maybe they are in a quiet moment in their life with their marriage and they're trying to figure it out?
Yeah, and I get to talk with a lot of people who have very difficult marriages just in my line of work, working in psychiatry. And I really feel for them because once again, I feel so blessed. I have someone who puts in at least as much work, if not more than I do. And we both make each other a priority. And I see other people that have spouses that make themselves a priority, or I see people that have this expectation of their spouses that maybe isn't realistic, and then they're upset with them. And I think people also need to know that marriages aren't expected to be perfect, right? That's just not possible. There's going to be fights, and it's more about how do you resolve those fights than whether you have them or not. It just isn't realistic. If there aren't any fights, then that means that there isn't any forming of each other's personalities. You're not having an impact on each other either. And so having some healthy conflict, I think, is actually important. And that's how you get good change. And, the longer we're married, also the more similar we become. And that's because we admire the things about each other and we want to reflect those things. And so I think those other marriages also, where people are having struggles, trying to get mentors, to get help, to seek couples counseling or therapy. Also, for some reason, this is something that people stigmatize and feel shame about, but I think it's really important that people just do it. And Heidi and I haven't done that, but we did premarital counseling, and that's been extremely valuable. And so having other people be a part of your marriage and in your life, people that you trust, I think is also a good idea.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that.
Nate, congratulations to both of you. 20 years that's a long, long, long time. It's kind of funny to me because I've known you both for forever, right? I remember, I still very distinctly remember you practicing with her cousin, singing LOVE to propose. She took me to see the producers while you were getting everything prepped, and then came back with some local boys.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, and just like it's just been going pretty smoothly, and like it's just really something to aspire to. Not, like I said, I've been married for the least length of time, but for everyone listening at this point, it's been 10 years.
Congratulations on that a couple days ago.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And just like, it's great to see how well you both work together and how much effort you put in to each other. That's something that's very clear and apparent, because you have different personalities in some ways, and like the way you both approach conflict is a little bit different. And when you see that, like, that's something that I think a lot of people find difficult in relationships, is how you approach and resolve conflict. So, like you were saying, that's probably one of the biggest challenges in marriage and making something last, is just having those skills to sort of get through those conflicts and giving of yourself. So seeing it is really, really inspirational. And I think you and Isaac and even Sergey, sorry for not as much, but you're just been not married quite as long as our two friends. It's really inspirational and great to see like how you work through it, because that can help me to see like ways I can be better in my own marriage.
Talking about the conflict styles, it just made me think of a fight that Heidi and I had not that long ago, or a conflict of some sort. And I can't remember exactly what it was about. There was something that she was really upset about, and she was telling me about it, and I was not getting upset. I was just kind of practically saying like, yeah, that's really hard. But I think things are going to be okay. We're going to do this and that, and we're going to handle this way. I think it was something about like someone kind of picking on one of our kids at school and getting bullied. And she's like, I got to bring down the house, I'm going to tear up that school and all the people. And not really, she's nice, but Heidi was getting upset.
Protective.
Yeah, protective. And she kind of got angry at me because I wasn't getting upset, and then she left the conversation. Then she came back and we got meta, meaning that like we stepped outside of the conflict itself. I went, how come you're not getting upset like me? Like, in talking about the conflict style, she kind of said, then I said, well, if I get upset like that, I'm just going to raise you up. You have plenty of people that you could talk to that are going to do that you're going to vent to, and they're going to raise up with you and get upset. But I'm your husband, and I need to be that person that helps you be where you need to be. So I'm mirroring where you want to end up, which is more calm and thinking this through. And she went, yeah. So it's kind of like our different styles were like, yep, that's true. That is what I needed. I'm not upset at you. I'm upset at this other thing. And so we stepped out of the conflict, looked at each other in our relationship and went, yes, now we can come back at that conflict and look at it a different way. And we're supportive of each other.
Yeah,
It's a great example.
I think the one other thing I would just add on there, and kind of building off your question, Serge, is friction is not a bad thing. Like, friction brings about change. I think it's how you deal with the friction is really what matters.
You gotta get good lube. And
Wow,
you gotta get good lube.
This isn't the whistleblower podcast anymore,
that
brother.
That went south. But yeah, just from a friction, I think there's healthy friction. I think if you're not having conversations that are bringing about friction, then you're not bringing about growth, right? In all aspects of life, friction brings about change. And so I think that it's how you deal with the friction and understanding that it's a natural part of any relationship that you would have, especially with somebody that you're the closest with, you're most vulnerable with. It's going to hurt, and it's going to feel like, more aggressive than maybe certain other areas. And I think it's just how you're able to deal with it, cope with it, and work through it. And just remember, at the end of the day, nobody loves you more than your spouse. And so knowing that they have your best interest at hand and trusting that and being able to work through it together is only going to bring you closer together in the end. So I think when you're talking about some people that might be listening to this and might be coming into kind of a dry spell, or, feel like they're on completely different planets, it's just, I think what you were saying, Nate, like kind of stepping outside and just remembering who you are, remembering that you support each other, remembering that you love each other, and that this conflict in the grand scheme of things really isn't that big of a deal. And you can find a way back to each other and work through it so that you're going to be able to grow from it and grow stronger together as a result.
Well, while Isaac was talking about that, I was having a thought about one of my friends who's having some like marital issues, and one of the problems that they're undergoing is just a divide between like expectations and reality. Has that ever been an issue with you, where either Heidi had expectations of you, or you had expectations of Heidi that were just kind of like not consistent with what you actually were wanting or like prepared to be doing?
Absolutely, especially early in marriage, but it still happens some today, and it comes down to one of us didn't communicate things very well. But the way that conflict gets handled is, and this is a problem I think that I hear in a lot of different relationships, both romantic and friendships, is that for Heidi and I, we will always assume positive intent. Meaning that we're not going to assume that the other person's an enemy, or that they're trying to harm us, or that they want us to feel bad. We're going to assume that whatever someone did, they did with the intention to be loving and follow through on an expectation. And so when you enter into any conflict or argument or concern with that mindset, then you're entering into it with an ally, someone that you love, and not going in angry. And then you have an opportunity to talk about change. But that's how you get the negative emotion out of it, is you assume positive intentions, which is useful in a lot of different areas of life.
Well, Nate, I think that 20 years of experience is something to hear about. And I just want to say thanks again for taking the time to share this with us and with our listeners. There's so much to be gained from that. And thank you to everyone for listening. We're grateful to have you guys join us today, and we're hoping to be part of something that you'll listen to every week. Every week on a Wednesday, that is, because that's when 4 Best podcasts are now going to be released at 4:44 p.m. Eastern on the 4th day, which is Wednesday again. If for some reason you want to get a hold of Mac or Nate or Isaac or myself, reach out. We got an email, guys. Email's pretty exclusive. 4bestpod@gmail.com. Send us a note. All right, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
4 best friends since way back when.